Hello, dear viewer, and thank you for joining me on day 33 of reading the Bible together. Today we are reading Exodus chapter 17, 18, and 19 from the Old Testament, as well as Matthew chapter 20, verse 17 to 34 from the New Testament. Let's start. Exodus chapter 17, Water from the Rock. The whole Israelite community left the desert of Sin, moving from one place to another at the command of the Lord. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water there to drink. They complained to Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses answered, "Why are you complaining? Why are you putting the Lord to the test?" But the people were very thirsty and continued to complain to Moses. They said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt? To kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?" Moses prayed earnestly to the Lord and said, "What can I do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord said to Moses, "Take some of the leaders of Israel with you and go on ahead of the people. Take along the stick with which you struck the Nile. I will stand before you on a rock at Mount Sinai. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink." Moses did so in the presence of the leaders of Israel. The place was named Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites complained and put the Lord to the test when they asked, "Is the Lord with us or not?" War with the Amalekites. The Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites at Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, "Pick out some men to go and fight the Amalekites tomorrow. I will stand on top of the hill, holding the stick that God told me to carry." Joshua did as Moses commanded him and went out to fight the Amalekites, while Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held up his arms, the Israelites won, but when he put his arms down, the Amalekites started winning. When Moses' arms grew tired, Aaron and Hur brought a stone for him to sit on, while they stood beside him and held up his arms, holding them steady until the sun went down. In this way, Joshua totally defeated the Amalekites. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write an account of this victory so that it will be remembered. Tell Joshua that I will completely destroy the Amalekites." Moses built an altar and named it, "The Lord is my banner." He said, "Hold high the banner of the Lord. The Lord will continue to fight against the Amalekites forever." Exodus chapter 18. Jethro visits Moses. Moses' father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, heard about everything that God had done for Moses and the people of Israel when he led them out of Egypt. So he came to Moses, bringing with him Moses' wife, Zipporah, who had been left behind, and Gershom and Eliezer, her 2 sons. Moses had said, "I have been a foreigner in a strange land," so he named one son Gershom. He had also said, "The God of my father helped me and saved me from being killed by the king of Egypt," so he had named the other son Eliezer. Jethro came with Moses' wife and her 2 sons into the desert, where Moses was camped at the holy mountain. He had sent word to Moses that they were coming, so Moses went out to meet him, bowed before him and kissed him. They asked about each other's health, and then went into Moses' tent. Moses told Jethro everything that the Lord had done to the king and the people of Egypt in order to rescue the Israelites. He also told him about the hardships the people had faced on the way and how the Lord had saved them. When Jethro heard all this, he was happy and said, "Praise the Lord, who saved you from the king and the people of Egypt. Praise the Lord, who saved his people from slavery. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all the gods, because he did this when the Egyptians treated the Israelites with such contempt." Then Jethro brought an offering to be burned whole, and the other sacrifices to be offered to God. and Aaron and all the leaders of Israel went with him to eat the sacred meal as an act of worship. The appointment of judges. The next day, Moses was settling disputes among the people, and he was kept busy from morning till night. When Jethro saw everything that Moses had to do, he asked, "What is all this that you are doing for the people? Why are you doing this all alone, with people standing here from morning till night to consult you?" Moses answered, "I must do this because the people come to me to learn God's will. When two people have a dispute, they come to me, and I decide which one of them is right, and I tell them God's commands and laws." Then Jethro said, "You are not doing this right. You will wear yourself out, and these people as well. This is too much for you to do alone. Now let me give you some good advice, and God will be with you. It is right for you to represent the people before God and bring their disputes to Him. You should teach them God's commands and explain to them how they should live and what they should do. But in addition, you should choose some capable men and appoint them as leaders of the people, leaders of thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. They must be God-fearing men who can be trusted and who cannot be bribed. Let them serve as judges for the people on a permanent basis. They can bring all the difficult cases to you, but they themselves can decide all the smaller disputes. That will make it easier for you as they share your burden. If you do this as God commands, you will not wear yourself out, and all these people can go home with their disputes settled." Moses took Jethro's advice and chose capable men from among all the Israelites. He appointed them as leaders of thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. They served as judges for the people on a permanent basis, bringing the difficult cases to Moses, but deciding the smaller disputes themselves. Then Moses said goodbye to Jethro, and Jethro went back home. Exodus chapter 19. The Israelites at Mount Sinai. The people of Israel left Rephidim, and on the first day of the 3rd month after they had left Egypt, they came to the desert of Sinai. There they set up camp at the foot of Mount Sinai, and Moses went up the mountain to meet with God. The Lord called to him from the mountain and told him to say to the Israelites, Jacob's descendants, "You saw what I, the Lord, did to the Egyptians, and how I carried you as an eagle carries her young on her wings, and brought you here to me. Now, if you will obey me and keep my covenant, you will be my own people. The whole earth is mine, but you will be my chosen people, a people dedicated to me alone, and you will serve me as priests." So Moses went down and called the leaders of the people together, and told them everything that the Lord had commanded him. Then all the people answered together, "We will do everything that the Lord has said." And Moses reported this to the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, "I will come to you in a thick cloud, so that the people will hear me speaking with you, and will believe you from now on." Moses told the Lord what the people had answered, and the Lord said to him, "Go to the people and tell them to spend today and tomorrow purifying themselves for worship. They must wash their clothes and be ready the day after tomorrow. On that day I will come down on Mount Sinai, where all the people can see me. Mark a boundary around the mountain that the people must not cross, and tell them to not go up the mountain or even get near it. If any of you set foot on it, you are to be put to death. You must either be stoned or shot with arrows without anyone touching you. This applies to both people and animals. They must be put to death. But when the trumpet is blown, then the people are to go up to the mountain." Then Moses came down the mountain and told the people to get ready for worship. So they washed their clothes, and Moses told them, "Be ready by the day after tomorrow, and don't have sexual intercourse in the meantime." On the morning of the 3rd day there was thunder and lightning. A thick cloud appeared on the mountain, and a very loud trumpet blast was heard. All the people in the camp trembled with fear. Moses led them out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. All of Mount Sinai was covered with smoke, because the Lord had come down on it in fire. The smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace, and all the people trembled violently. The sound of the trumpet became louder and louder. Moses spoke, and God answered him with thunder. The Lord came down on the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top of the mountain. Moses went up, and the Lord said to him, "Go down and warn the people not to cross the boundary to come and look at me. If they do, many of them will die. Even the priests who come near me must purify themselves, or I will punish them." Moses said to the Lord, "The people cannot come up because you commanded us to consider the mountain sacred and to mark a boundary around it." The Lord replied, "Go down and bring Aaron back with you, but the priests and the people must not cross the boundary to come up to me, or I will punish them." Moses then went down to the people and told them what the Lord had said. Please feel free to pause the video here for time to reflect on what we have read. Let's continue. Matthew chapter 20, verse 17 to 34. Jesus speaks a third time about his death. As Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside and spoke to them privately as they walked along. "Listen," he told them, "we are going up to Jerusalem, where the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law. They will condemn him to death and then hand him over to the Gentiles, who will make fun of him, whip him, and crucify him. But 3 days later he will be raised to life." A mother's request. Then the wife of Zebedee came to Jesus with her 2 sons, bowed before him, and asked him for a favor. "What do you want?" Jesus asked her. She answered, "Promise me that these 2 sons of mine will sit at your right and your left when you are king." "You don't know what you are asking for," Jesus answered the sons. "Can you drink the cup of suffering that I am about to drink?" "We can," they answered. "You will indeed drink from my cup," Jesus told them, "but I do not have the right to choose who will sit at my right and my left. These places belong to those for whom my Father has prepared them." When the other 10 disciples heard about this, they became angry with the 2 brothers. So Jesus called them all together and said, "You know that the rulers of the heathen have power over them, and the leaders have complete authority. This, however, is not the way it shall be among you. If one of you wants to be great, you must be the servant of the rest. And if one of you wants to be first, you must be the slave of the others, like the Son of Man, who did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life to redeem many people." Jesus heals 2 blind men. As Jesus and his disciples were leaving Jericho, a large crowd was following. 2 blind men who were sitting by the road heard that Jesus was passing by, so they began to shout, "Son of David, have mercy on us, sir." The crowd scolded them and told them to be quiet, but they shouted even more loudly, "Son of David, have mercy on us, sir." Jesus stopped and called them. "What do you want me to do for you?" he asked them. "Sir," they answered, "we want you to give us our sight." Jesus had pity on them and touched their eyes. At once they were able to see, and they followed him. Please feel free to pause the video here for time to reflect on what we have read. That's it for today, and I hope that you'll join me in the next video. Wishing you a graceful morning, day, or evening.